Good evening and welcome back to Be Rich. I have with me my good friend Prashant Prasmal, who's digging out facts of Warren Buffett as Warren Buffett decided to call it a day. And so he has found a book on Buffett's early investments and he picks up nuggets from there and keeps going at it. So today he has brought out a couple of nuggets from Buffett's initial investment days. Something which I have said in India you should not be doing. A qualified in India has said you should not be doing, especially middle class. So it's a good lesson on when something when I don't recommend, can also be value. Howard Marks famously said, there is no asset that is good or bad. Every asset becomes good at a certain value. So this episode will tell you why this asset class is not a value in India and when it will become a value. Let's go ahead, Prashant.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. So this is like I particularly picked this up because a viewer wanted to know, the value investing perspective on real estate. So we have evidence, Buffett has actually talked about like a decade ago in one of his letters about his two real estate investments. So one he made his initial investment in real estate was in 1986 in a farm, and if you want to explain like why exactly he did that, or
That would not be the only initial investment. When he was about 18 or 19, he bought a farm, let it out on rent, and then sold it later. That is when he was in his early
teenage.
teens, late teens. But the farm you are referring to, he bought in 1986 because his son was interested in farming. So he bought a farm and leased it out and insisted that his son pay a rent on that. And so he thought he did not know anything about farm. So how many bushels of corns will go, how many bushels of wheat will go, what was the market price? And he found out that between him and his son, they would make a 10% return on that farm. So, based on that 10% return, he invested in the farm and his son ran the farm. He also said inflation, he doesn't use the word inflation, I'm using the word inflation. Inflation will make sure two things will happen. The value of land will automatically go up and the price for produce would go up further. So, in about 5 to 10 years, 5 years or I forget the exact number of years, he says he's tripled the investment land value and also the returns on based on the original value of land came to nearly 30 to 35%. There are two things in this. One, he is treating real estate as a bond, then calculating what is the return on investment after all expenses.
If I can plug in the figures here, so he made an investment of 280,000. So when we're talking about a yield of 10% return, we're talking about 10% on 280,000.
Yeah.
And his eventual gains that we talked about, tripled this earnings. It happened over 28 years. On his capital investment, he made like 5 times or more.
Yes.
Yeah.
So his basic $28,000 became more than $120,000. And his return on capital went up 3 times. That is what I said. Based on the original investment, his return on capital was 35%. Now the Buffett farms have expanded. They have farms all over the world. Now, why can't we do this in India? In India, agriculture is highly restricted. Unless you are a farmer, you cannot buy in many areas. Tamil Nadu does not have that rule, but other states have that rule. Secondly, the farms that Buffett bought are of huge size, minimum 100 acres. Here you will not be able to buy 100 acres because land size is fragmented. Because we decided to reform the zamindari system, we have fragmented the land. So the chance of you buying a 100-acre parcel where there is proper water and agricultural support is next to impossible or very minimal. Even if you have bought it, if you put rice and other water intensive crops, sugarcane and rice definitely the price is now controlled by the government. The government regulates the price, so you will not get a proper price. In India, if you choose to do some other crops also, storages are very poor. So you cannot keep the food fresh export it to the city and make money. So what happens is there's a trader cartel which takes from you at very dirt cheap prices. So there is no transparent farm to fork delivery. The farmer loses out. That
We're
is
talking
why
about a very highly regulated sector here in
highly
India.
regulated sector, fragmented land, so that you cannot have scale. In America, three people can run a farm of 100 acres. You don't, unless you have that kind of scale in India, you cannot make money.
Okay.
And because already people want to hide black money, the price of land has shot up to such a point that this kind of planning is not possible. That's there is the difference between India and America, and also farming is an agriculture is an industry there. Here it is mollycodded, protected say, industry here in India.
And when we talk about value investing in real estate, we also see that there was a certain margin of safety that Warren could see in this
Exactly.
investment.
Basically, if you get a 10% return and you know that inflation is going to push it up, you will make money. But the question is whether you will make a 10% return or you will not make a 10% return. Obviously, we didn't. In India, you won't make a 10% return. Yeah.
And Warren also mentions that, let's say you are considering a certain real estate property and you are not very sure about the cash flow, potential cash flow that you can get from the property. He says you can always skip it until you can
Yeah,
keep
but-
looking for property and find
Yes.
something that you.
See, he keep looking. He talks about the second one, a block of apartments and shops. So he makes a calculation that in today's rate he is going to make 10%. And there's a huge tenant who's paying at 1/10, less than 1/10 the market value, whose lease is down, expected to run down in few years.
A few years.
And when that happens, and he says these people are paying $5 a square feet, and the market rate was $70 a square feet. So he calculated, he bought assuming that whatever the rental was the interest, and calculated the bond and bought it at a very cheap yield, knowing fully well if he let out some more shops and renegotiated the lease for the entire big floor, which was operated by one guy, the return on investment would go to 35%. In any commercial complex in Tamil Nadu or India, if you can make 35% return on money invested, it's a great deal. Even I would say yes, because it is throwing free cash flow which you can use to buy more stocks. In India, there are two problems. One, you are using leverage to buy your residence. You are not using your own cash. Even in commercial complexes, we don't see a lot of financing and a lot, so hence a lot of black money is involved. And that is why you don't have quality malls in India. Tamil Nadu, yes, some cities have, but they don't have large scale models because the price of land is too prohibitively expensive. That's it.
I wanted to particularly talk about the Indian argument. Generally, when someone's buying a real estate property, and you tell them, the rent or whatever kind of cash flow that you get from that property, real estate property is very low. But the immediate answer that they offer you is that, but then real estate increases in price all
It
the time.
don't increase.
Yeah, can you just explain the logic of?
There are several
No, why exactly? Can you tell me
there
why
are
exactly?
several points in history where real estate prices have remained stagnant for many years. Real estate prices remain stagnant because the property you bought does not go on rent. Normally, if the government yield is 7%, you should get 7% return. But in the city of Madras for many years, somebody buys a 1 crore property, he will get 15,000 rupees rent. And there are other costs of taxes and other things involved will come down to 12,000 rupees. You will make 1.5 to 2%. When nobody is going to buy an asset which you are going to make 1.5 to 2% return.
So the basic argument is that because the cash yield from that property is so low,
extremely low.
so you're at some point you're gonna run out of buyers who will buy it at such a high price.
The other problem is most of our Indian households use leverage to buy property, which makes it even more worse.
Okay, you also need to pay the interest in.
See, Buffett also uses leverage. His entire business is on leverage. But he uses leverage which comes from a float. So he has a minus 2% interest rate. People are paying money to him to keep money. You don't get that kind of float in real estate. You will immediately find loan sharks charging 18 to 24%. So the whole industry needs a reset. It will take a long time.
So the fundamental point is that you need to value real estate the
That as a
same way
bond,
you
or
a
value a bond.
bond or a stock or anything like that.
Yes, exactly.
It's just that the cash flow that you're talking about changes.
Yes.
Okay. One more thing Buffett particularly talks about when he talks about these real estate investments is that when he made these investments, he wasn't thinking about what the interest rate that the Fed said was, the Federal Reserve said was, how the economy, general economy was doing,
Yeah.
what the GDP was, what the inflation rate
Yeah.
was. So he said that these investments are those macro things just don't matter at all. Your thoughts on that?
It doesn't matter. In one case, if you are leveraging, it matters. In case of Buffett, since he was not leveraging, it didn't matter. The long-term mortgage rates depend upon the Fed funds rate. But since he was using his own capital and not that of the borrowed from the bank, it didn't matter to him at all.
Okay. That's the questions. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for watching, Be Rich. If you like this video, kindly subscribe to the channel and hit the like button for this video. Please do not forget to turn on the bell notification. If you do not turn on the bell notification, you will not be notified every time a video comes. Once again, I thank you for your support for Be Rich.